With this, we move to the invitee speakers, so who we've requested that they comment on one point. So I move to Mr. Muralidharan, additional ED of LIC. Sir, your question is, what are the challenges in upskilling of an aging insurance force to sell digitally? What are the challenges which you foresee, and how do you think you will be able to address at LIC?
I like to put this data in space. As far as the ICICI is concerned, we have approximately 1,000 officers and about 1.25 million agents. That is what our MD has already spoken to you. And this this is our frontline sales force. The remaining will be the branch managers and the controlling officers. But these people, around 50%, maybe around 50 years plus. Others are young and getting younger and younger because we keep recruiting. As my managing director already put, we have recruited almost 30,000 plus agents in the first quarter itself in the current year. So aging is not a right use. I would put it as experienced, except for those recently recruited development officers into the organization just 1 year back, or maybe 6 months back. And maybe the agents who are getting recruited recently, experience, they are all knowledgeable, and that probably is my advantage as an organization as big as the advantage that LIC has is that very experienced, very knowledgeable, and all the seniors are that. And the only challenge that I'm going to face, and that is the challenge that I'm really going to face, is how to make them go back to or go from the person-to-person sales, the face-to-face sales digitally or selling digitally. Seniors need to be channelized. Their experience and their expertise have to be channelized to understand the marketing strategy of selling. Anyway, will be coming in. They are already aware of the digital marketing and digital selling processes, so they are probably a little more comfortable in this. Ultimately, what I feel is that those wanting to fit into the future world of work, they will need to upskill themselves to work digitally. They know that has got two dimensions. One is that if they want to survive, they need to be upskilled digitally. The other side of it is that the manpower for a higher level of performance, in the sense higher level of work, because they don't have to paperwork, all the repetitive jobs will get digitalized. And once it gets digitalized, the more time will be spent on creating value. And people offering value will be at the receiving end or at the book for the customer. The challenge, therefore, probably I would like to put it this way, is to provide value through digital platforms. How do we do that? Probably providing value in proper servicing, providing value in proper advice, providing and learner levels, in the sense their knowledge levels have to be used. So all these things are going to be a challenge. Keeping contacts live, because what happens is face to face is almost over, or I would have not over, but at least for the in a kind of suspended uh, reality. Suspended reality makes it mandatory that we do not meet people face to face, and therefore, what Mr. Shobha was, the selling or building contacts, building relationships across the transaction, the backbone of the industry is gone, and it is relationships on a digital platform. So this is where we are going to be having a challenge. Challenge for us will be aligning the already experienced people with these areas. This is sales supervisors, so how to train them, control, embrace technology, and develop software, which we actually have to make it very simple as the assistant was user-friendly software. Maybe the drop down, the radio button answers and yes no answers kind of software, which is very easy to handle. That makes it a little challenging for the organization. The other thing is recruiting digitally, training and making them active, generating leads and selling digitally is an area where I think some more challenges we will have to face.
We'll go to Prasad Kakkat, Head of Sales HR in ABSLI. Prasad, can you hear me, Prasad?
I can hear you. Hi, Peter. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Prasad. So, Prasad, the question for you is recruitment, onboarding, induction, and training, and even selling are all moving or moved to digital or work from home. But this has been too short a time for us to experience whether this is all going well. So, what are the contra or the new challenges you're expecting of doing this entire process digitally and virtually? And what are the plans you have to counter that? So, just wanted to hear your views on this, Prasad.
Sure, Peter. So it's my privilege to be part of this conversation. Thank you, Murali and Peter, for this opportunity. Peter, you have managed multiple questions in a single question. So let me first make it into two pieces. I'll attempt to speak about recruitment till training. Then I'll come back to selling post that. So in the recruitment, while we have moved to digital interactions and tools, I still see there are a bit of discomfort of people taking the final decision of selection without meeting a candidate. So there are a lot of conversation around that. People still wanted to have a physical meeting before, taking the final decision. However, I think there's high probability that a large part of hiring will move into digital, and people will find it as normal as any other process and adopt to it. I think rather than challenges, I see there's a lot of benefits in moving the hiring digitally. Uh, First experience that we have is around hiring digitally is, high speed. We see that the speed of hiring is improving. The entire process is becoming much smoother and faster. And we also foresee that eventually this will reduce our cost of hiring. Uh, I see that another benefit of digital process will be, the candidate turnout ratio, especially in the front end hiring that we do in large volumes. We have already started experiencing an improved candidate turnout for interviews. Now, what will be the future of this? The future, I think, will eventually move into a artificial intelligence based selection where the machines will predict the best candidate for each of the role. And I guess most of the present selection steps will either automate or get, probably eliminated itself from the process of hiring. So this is around the process of hiring, but I think the business question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Prasad, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was saying, what I was speaking is around the process of hiring, but I think to my mind, the biggest question will be who's the right candidate for sales post, COVID. And I think all of us in the industry probably need to redo the entire uh, thinking around it and then create another pen portrait for a salesperson in the digital era, who will suit into the LI. But I'll come to that when we take the selling part, which is the second part of your question. Uh, but let me now move into the onboarding and training piece. So there's a similar trend, of moving to digital. What we are seeing in selection and recruitment, we also see the entire onboarding and induction, and most part of training is also becoming digital. Uh, the onboarding piece per se, there are a lot of digital tools. We are also developing a lot of tools, and we already have a couple of practices in place. Is offering a very different and a very easy experience to the candidate. And I think this is catching up pretty fast and will be the new normal. Uh, Only thing that I can say that probably the COVID has accelerated the pace of its implementation. But when it comes to induction, Peter, I think we need to still test the water on induction and its effectiveness. What I am seeing that during the induction that we do on a digital mode, most of the time candidates are attending the program from their house, and therefore what is losing out is the element of belongingness. I'm not very sure, and we're not able to test it out, that if the candidate is getting a feeling of joining a new organization when he's sitting an induction from his or her home and then attending a program. So I think that would pose us a biggest challenge when it comes to induction digitally getting conducted. And I think that is where I said, we need to wait and see how this turn out to be. I think the biggest element of solution will be handholding by the managers post, induction, either digitally or wherever possibly they can also meet people and then do that. That could be a possible solution, which is anywhere tested and proven practice in our industry. Coming to the training, induction, we are also attempting to move into a fully digital mode of training practices. Ravi has also touched upon that. We are gradually moving from an instructor-led program to a digital-led program. And in this practice, what we foresee that most of the learning will be therefore self-learning. And one of the result of this could be that gradually the ownership of learning will move to the employees from the organization. Therefore, I see in the future the learning will be what we can call the learning on the go, and programs that last days and weeks together could be made into short capsule formats that people can manage to learn anywhere and everywhere. So that's about learning. One of the good thing and probably a potential opportunity that I see here, that such times will also allow us to experiment a lot of stuff that we have been thinking and not able to put it into the action table because of our comfort with the convenient and conventional model of working. So COVID has actually pushed us a lot to put a lot of such initiative into our experiment mode. Uh, but after talking about digitalization in the employee life cycle at different stages, one of the biggest challenge that I foresee, which both Shobha and Jit touched upon, is it becoming a little excessive use of digital tools? Therefore, we may end up lacking the human connect. That could be an area that probably after a lot of digitization and the adoption reaching to 100%, probably we may need to start thinking about how to reduce the excessive use of digital tools and then start calling up people and then talk to them and ask how are you doing. So I think the effective engagement and the so-called loyalty is something that probably will get redefined in the era of high digital adoption. So that's my view around the first part of your question, Peter. Now let me come into the second part that's around selling. Uh, I from whatever numbers that I see that the sentiment towards protection is increasing, but we are yet to get the similar trends and similar evidence of the customer comfort of buying policies online, the way that they buy any consumable product or any other banking products. So we are yet to see that comfort on actual place. So one of the area that organizations, and we are also thinking and may invest a lot of our time, would be around how do we build confidence and skill on our salespeople in prospecting and converting a customer through digital mode. This is something that people are never used to be, and then this is exactly what we heard from Mr. Murali also, that people are already doing so successfully through the conventional model. How do we ask them to move into a digital mode could be the biggest challenge. So this challenge will actually take us back to the question that I did actually park, saying that who's the right salesperson in the digital era. Uh, I think the changed environment I guess both models, that the present model and the new model, both will coexist. I don't think that the present model of agency or partnership sales will go away. But what will happen over a period of time? There will be new muscles coming up, and there is a totally new digital selling organization that may come up, and probably we may need to have two different treatment, in the entire process, and even up to the product. How do we manage both, sales? There is a lot of possibilities that organization like us can build our capability around selling through digital modes. I will also see another possibility here, that uh, probably we may get another set of agents who are not part of our supply chain today because of our present model, coming to the digital way of supply chain and joining the distribution network. And if that happens, most probably we will open up a different set of customers whom that in the present world we are not able to prospect to. And I think that that could be the leading advantage of adding another set. I was actually amazed to hear LIC had added 33,000 advisors in the quarter one. And if that is a trend, and then we are moving towards digital, and then entirely able to track and prospect a different set of advisors, that may open up a very different set of supply chain for the life protect. So that's my view, Peter. A short answer to your long question.
Thanks, Prasad. I think you've touched on the real ground level issues. Thank you so much. Go to Jay. Jay, good evening.
Good evening, Peter.
The point I want you to please address is on is currently for an industry which is known for high attrition levels, thanks to COVID, retentions have been almost 100%. Okay, but this is not going to be the trend even going forward. But what are your views, Jay, and how will you control this? Any retention ideas you can share with us?
So, Peter, what we witnessed in quarter one was a definite slowdown in business. Not that it had come to a standstill. In fact, I think insurance as a sector was one of the least affected, although we did get affected significantly ourselves. But what I think did definitely happen was on the side when the pandemic extended, the government stepped in and also rolled out some confidence building measures within the corporate sector, specifically advising organizations not to take any kind of retrenchment or layoff actions among their employee force. Uh, Now, later on, it was revealed that most of these directives were specified and intended to protect the interests of daily wage laborers. In industries like construction, and many such other industries which operate on the fringes of the organized sector, but they were still covered. But the good part of this was that organizations in the more organized sectors, in the formal sector, also took up this on themselves to make sure that they were part to this decision making, and they kind of ensured that this was being followed within their organizations as well. So you would have noticed, and like your slide says, that in the first 2 months, specifically April and to even to a great extent May, many organizations held on to any decisions on performance, on any kind of separation actions due to various reasons. What was interesting was there was both a employee driven change in behavior and an organization driven change in behavior. What I just spoke about was the change in behavior on part of the organizations. Employees were themselves very circumspect about exploring opportunities. Typically, you see a trend of a lot of movement after the increments are rolled out every year. Employees tend to collect their bonuses or receive the increments and then seek out opportunities. While discussions would have happened in the first calendar quarter, but actual movements happen a little later. Uh, many organizations were faced with scenarios of no increments. Some actually, which were under heavy constraints, even went to the extreme extent of undertaking pay cuts, and these were very widely announced. They were not done in a hush-hush manner. Now, in such a situation, I think employees also decided to sit tight and not really explore the options, or even if I'm personally aware of many instances where even though they had firm offers in their hand, and the HR functions and the hiring managers of the new company were constantly following up and asking them to join. I know of employees who have consciously refuted the offers because of the fear that having changed and you move into a new organization, typically you tend to be at risk if the new organization plans to do some kind of cost cutting measures through employee reductions. So this was what was happening. Now obviously, like everything else associated with this pandemic, the whole situation was unprecedented. Nobody knew the right way to do it, nobody had the right answers. So which resulted in many organizations, many sectors, including our own, the insurance space, which is relatively high when it comes to attrition, also seeing a very significant dip in the exits. uh, Whether this will continue for the rest of the year, or is there going to be a change, it's going to be a bit of a speculation. I definitely believe that voluntary attrition, which is where the employee initiates it by themselves, will continue to be on a downward trend, and the reasons are the same as I mentioned earlier. Uncertainty in a new environment, in a new organization, business cycles impacting different organizations differently, and hence not being very sure if the role that you're moving into will continue to exist, or could be at the receiving end of an axe. uh, from a organization point of view, the attrition that happens is, I think, what will continue, and this again will be only in the domain of performance. Now here again, some interesting changes have happened. Most organizations have reworked their business plans, and obviously the estimates go from anywhere between 40% to maximum 60 to 70% of what they would have done in the same period last year. So the expectation has gone down. While a lot of the previous speakers and experts spoke about how digital has been adopted in a big way, and companies are bouncing back and coming back to the curve very quickly, but still there is a assumption that we may have not seen the end of this, and hence, while there is a smart recovery, we may still go back to the uh, times of May, and maybe April and May in terms of our performance. So I don't see too many of those actions happening either. Targets would have shrunk a little bit, and hence business will continue. Targets, renewed targets will continue to get achieved. But yes, at the end of the day, there will be a bell curve. There will be the bottom 15 to 20%, which will be kind of acted upon. The other side of the story, of course, is the cost efficiency measures that are being introduced in many organizations. That could lead to some kind of planned attrition. Again, the cost impact of that, the legalities and regulatory impact of that remains to be seen. Uh, like most organizations, what we are doing, and I'm sure this seems to be general, that we are looking at leveraging this current scenario in terms of making sure that we are holding on to our top talent, the solid citizens, the people who are performing at their level at the best possible output, and even the so-called belly of the bell curve. you know you would want business continuity. You don't want to lose the momentum that is slowly being built up. So the action, like I mentioned earlier, will be only at the tail of the bell curve. And uh, a lot of new thinking, a lot of different ways of ensuring employee engagement, employee connect, are being tested, many of them successfully. Organizations are realizing that working from home, which has been forced upon us, may be a good idea in the long run. And having realized that efficiency and productivity is pretty much at 80 to 90% levels of what they were when people are working in office, the understanding is that if we give this as an option, as an opportunity to employees, we may be able to retain them better as compared to another organization which is going to slowly but surely start asking their employees to come back to office. This sentiment will prevail till the virus remains, and everyone's guess how long before we find a vaccine. So employees are still sensitive, still concerned, still anxious about coming back into office. And any given day, an organization which allows them to work out of home safely and securely longer will have a better story on engagement and retention.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Thank you for your. Good. Since Vineet is not there, Murli, are you there?
There.
Um,
Can I ask Suresh to continue? Suresh can ask, you going to ask, who's going to ask this question?
so since Mr. Suresh Malingam is also part of us,
Yeah.
Murli, if you can quickly introduce him to the audience, and then we can
Yeah.
ask this question and ask him to sum it up.
Yeah, Suresh is a very interesting experience, and he was recently the CEO of Tata AIG. I met him there, but he comes with a lot of FMCG background. So, and later on, he's been independent director. He's been on many boards. So I happened to know him, and we suddenly exchanged some notes. And I requested him to come and join us today to share some of his thoughts. So Suresh, thank you for finding time, and we're very happy to hear because you've got a very unique background at the CEO level from two industries, both in FMCG and in insurance. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks.
Suresh, if you can give your views on this particular question, and then if you can summarize it, we'll be thankful.
Yeah, okay. So thanks, Peter, and thanks, Murli. It's always horrible to be the last speaker because everybody gets to speak whatever he wants to communicate in more than the prescribed times that they've been allotted to. And the fact that you've also extended your time zone makes my job that much more difficult. But having said that, I listened attentively to all the speakers, and I must say the kind of rapid changes that the life insurance industry has undertaken over the last couple of months is phenomenal. It's really phenomenal. And I'm surprised it requires a pandemic and a lockdown for us to start thinking out of the box. If the same discussion were to happen without a COVID, we would still be talking about productivity. Productivity is low. How do we get more agents? The retention levels of the frontline sales is depleting fast. How do we get quality, and so on and so forth. And here is a new paradigm shift of a language which probably was unheard because digitization are all alien. It's all more about back-end processes, and people use digital transformation rather loosely. But cut to chase and look at what's happening right now. Every single guy is uttering the word digitization and so on and so forth. So if I were to look at what all the speakers said, and if we were to synthesize and look at what is the way forward, and I am a sales guy at heart, I may have been a CEO, I may have been a director, but all my life, right from my ITC days to HDFC Life to Tata days, and I have been a sales guy, and I always look at myself from the mirror of a sales guy. And what is it that guy in the front line wants to do, cannot do, and how are companies engaging with them to make this happen? So therefore, I will start on a positive note. The future of sales in life insurance is intact. It is going to blossom. All this worries about what will not happen, how will I recruit agents, and so on and so forth, are temporary in nature because life insurance is a need. And the beauty is that we were struggling with awareness of life insurance pre-COVID. All the insurance companies got together, pooled in money, brought in a campaign, build the awareness, and so on and so forth, because until a few months ago, and today we say awareness is very high, right? Awareness is all-time high. And all that has happened because of let's say, COVID. And therefore, COVID should be seen as an opportunity, as most speakers said. And I'm borrowing a phrase from somebody who used, COVID is actually creating opportunities in virus-infected days. So therefore, rather than say COVID, if we were to look at it as creating opportunities in virus infected days, and you start recalibrating your mindset to say, how is it that if I was recruiting 10 agents a month, can I recruit 20? How will I do it differently? What, it doesn't matter I'm working from home, but am I starting to think smartly? And I can tell you, I've been speaking to some of my colleagues in the industry. There are a couple of companies who've done a phenomenal job in recruitment. You heard the MD of LIC speak about 33,000 agents. I know of two private insurance companies who have done an amazing job of growing the number of agents, and I've heard of webinars where for agent recruitment there are 10,000 people on webinars just for recruitment, and that company has grown on agency year on year by 5 or 6%. I don't want to name the company, but I just want to highlight the fact that there are ways where salespeople can engage and make sure that fundamentally whatever they were doing pre-COVID can actually happen sitting from home. It is not to say that just the face-to-face is not happening. Actually, face-to-face is intensified by all the technology tools that you have. So just to kind of put things in perspective so that everybody hears it in simpler terms rather than look at it from very fancy terms, because let's not complicate the entire process. The process is simple. Life insurance will thrive, sales will thrive. How it will thrive in the new environment is what we need to look at. The first advantage, awareness is an all-time high. If the awareness is an all-time high, what does that mean? The category historically was pushed. You had to find prospects, go to him, meet him 3 times, 4 times, get trained well. You're not well skilled in selling the product. You need your supervisor to tag along with you to kind of convince the product after multiple trips, right? Now, because the category awareness is high, it's not push, it's moving towards pull. And the pull is happening because of a situation called COVID as an opportunity. And then therefore, with interest rates going down, with protection, with healthcare needs going up, protection, which was hardly a category as far as the life insurance is concerned, and in terms of overall, suddenly has blossomed, and we bring back aspects of protection gap and so on and so forth. And with interest rates coming down, your guaranteed products. So therefore, you have a superb solution to address both protection needs and investment needs, and with awareness going up. Don't tell me that the sales guy will struggle to sell. This is an opportunity for the sales guy to say, hey, listen, I can train myself better. I can communicate through technology better. I will reach out to more number of people. I will do great lead management conversions. I have all the tools that I have, and I will go out and recruit and get more, whether it's banca, whether it's direct sales force, whether it's agency sales force, whether it's broking, or any other channel that you have as far as the sales guy is concerned, because this truly is a fantastic opportunity. And I do know the worst thing with sales guys or companies is they look at month-on-month performance or YTD performance. Throw that out of the window. I mean, that is just a metric that you see. But you start measuring input. Historically, life insurance companies, premium kitna hua, how much have we achieved, target achieve kiya, kyun achieve nahi kiya, but they always measure the output. When you measure the output in a good going situation, is all fine. Despite that, productivity, the life insurance was an all-time low. Agency was bleeding because of the cost of acquisition very high. Here is a great opportunity where you start tracking inputs in terms of saying how many leads have you got, how many calls have you made, how many face-to-face communications have you done, what is the interest, because the guy is sitting in the house, the guy is interested, awareness is high, push is moving to pull, and I mean, here is a superb opportunity for conversion, and secondly, employability. Today, with half the jobs being cut, every company cutting costs, reducing pay, and so on and so forth, what better noble profession do you have than life insurance? There are people sitting in the house, and there are models and models within agency channels and other channels where you could recruit many people who are probably jobless and say, hey, here is a great opportunity for you to make some money. All you need to do is pull out your mobile phone, look at your contact list, call those people, explain to them the benefits, you register yourself, train yourself, certify yourself, and start becoming a holy agent. And then therefore, business numbers can actually take. And therefore, I come back to the point, the future of sales, sales guys, front-end sales, everything is fantastic. The business is bound to grow after a small hiatus. Third, creativity is the human spirit needs to come to the fore. Okay, all that I'm talking right now is all about creativity, because one has to understand that the current situation, this too shall pass. It's not as if this is going to remain permanent. Everything has a beginning, will have a middle, and eventually an end. A hell is a hell till we are hell bent in making it a hell. Need to discover the holiness in hell, right? So therefore, you've got to look at what is the turnaround that you will do to make things better. If LIC has recruited 33,000 agents, as we heard in the call, that is phenomenal. If LIC believes that agents will continue to be the dominant force, that is phenomenal. If other panelists have said digital sales have gone up, it's phenomenal. So these are all positive strokes. You can't go back and say this has not happened, that has not happened. All the things that have happened have been fantastic, right? Second thing is, clearly you've got to look at the impact, the implication, and what are the stakes, right? And that is exactly everybody is doing. But when you look at the impact, implication, and what the stakes are, you cannot, take drastic actions immediately, because everything has a methodology, everything has a way. In the financial services business, we look at costs and then recalibrate our strategy from that perspective. Why can't the questions be flipped and say, hey, there is an opportunity. How can I enhance my productivity? What do I do? What do I need to do to make productivity gain? With a COVID situation, there are no traveling costs. Nobody is traveling. There are some savings there. How do I channelize that back and putting into effective methodologies for the business to change? So I'm just giving perspectives for the people to understand that start thinking positively. Let's not make this a situation where everything is gloom and doom. It's all possible. Recognize the fact that organizations need to change, and it is important, therefore, for them to look at it. Consumer behavior will change. If you don't recognize the fact that consumer behavior will not change, you're a fool. And therefore, you need to invest time to understand what is this consumer behavior change that we're looking at. How do we address that change? By merely saying I will digitize the process and I will make sure that the onboarding is easy. Those are still transactional. You've got to understand what is the pain area. What will give him the delight? How do I therefore digitize those aspects of those pain areas? What's the kind of time he's willing to give? A lot of investment must go into understanding what the behavior will change. I've got some empirical data on consumer behavior change pre-COVID, post-COVID, not related to insurance, but related to other products. When a lockdown has been lifted, the sales have boomed back to 80% of original sales. When a lockdown is there, obviously the sales have been affected. So the fact of the matter is that there is a need, there is a market. The market looks a little suppressed right now because of multiple other conditions. But from a life insurance perspective, there is a great market. All you have to do is go and get it. Now, recruitment of agents will increase from my perspective, recruitment of agents will increase. And if recruitment of agents will increase, like LIC has shown, it's not about aging, or it's not about, in the industry has had this phenomenal problem of recruiting agents which are part-time in nature. You milk them initially, and then you will measure them, and activation is low, this is low, that is low, and finally you'll terminate them, and then you'll get a whole set of new agents coming in. Now that's again a pure reflection of training, inputs, those kind of things not being given. And therefore, attention in terms of quality recruitment and quality numbers is something that people will have to engage with. I feel recruitment of agents will actually increase as the job market is suffering. There will be newer methods of recruitment and so on and so forth. Coming to this aspect of digital and digitalization, I think digital and digitalization needs to be completely embraced for the entire consumer journey, right? Now it just can't say that I've got claims processing, I've got underwriting processing, the entire customer journey. Now the greatest challenge is not access to technology, but its implementation. I think everybody has got technology, it's not a problem. But the biggest issue is implementation. Some said insurance tech will gain momentum. I agree, insurance tech will gain momentum. But I see an interim hybrid play between, completely moving to digital to a face-to-face. Now, to address the issues of productivity, I'll take another 5 minutes. I can to issue the. Is that okay? I know we're still 5 minutes is okay, Murli?
Yeah, go ahead. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Now, in the case of productivity, right? There's a historical problem with the life insurance industry. I feel work from home productivity is better utilized if you do the right things in terms of lead management, calls. Because in the office or working in the market, you are wasting time. Half the time spending time in office is inefficient time. And one of the historical problems of agency not doing well is because you don't have active customers, you're not meeting enough customers, and you're happy with family and friends and their connection. And as a consequence, productivity suffered. And it's been an age-old problem. My reckoning is in the new normal with people working from home, ably supported with leads and leads management and his ability to communicate, the efficiencies will improve. And with the renewed awareness and pull factor working in both for protection as well as savings product, the productivity will multiply both in terms of number of policies as well as premium. The other aspects that we need to look at is also in terms of new skills, right? New skills need to be acquired while communicating and selling digitally. Now, this is something that we did not have, right? So this is a skill that we need to develop. And companies that spend time or spend resources in doing that will be successful because we need to build the literacy, as some of the panelists said. I'm also of the belief that nothing has fundamentally changed in terms of the way we were looking at addressing agents pre-COVID to post-COVID. And I'll tell you where. The fun factor of agency or the fun factor of the mass-based insurance selling is all about rah-rah, awards night, MDRT, this, that, month, best salesman for the month, best persistent guy for the month. It is all about family, embracing, togetherness, and so on and so forth. All that can be created virtually. All that can be created virtually. You can have a virtual showroom of a virtual process of having 10,000, 5,000, 2,000 number of people, number is not, you can all get them together. You can celebrate success with the family, all on Zoom, all on video, all on anything. So therefore, smart sales guys, smart companies will start looking at how do I create that wow moment that used to happen outside the home, in the home, through the technology media. The moment when you imagine you have the entire family sitting in front of a camera and the husband or the lady is getting awarded as the best guy. I mean, that person will be motivated to do more, right? So I think these are the newer out-of-the-box thinking that sales guys need to do to enhance the productivity and make the entire process that much more simpler, effective, and so on and so forth. So companies need to look at that. Fundamentals of sales process do not change. We still need to measure the same inputs. Though process needs to be simplified. I think the sales process needs to be customer-centric. The more companies look towards this and not just look at धंधा कितना लाया, target कितना हुआ, तुमने target achieve कर लिया कि नहीं, क्या या target नहीं लाया. Those are not going to work. You've got to make sure that you build the trust of the frontline salespeople who's sitting from the house, a lot of empathy, a lot of love, a lot of embracing, a lot of nurturing. All that needs to happen, which comes to me a point that I didn't, and since it was a lot of HR people on the panel, and I want to pose this question back to the HR panel for them to understand and look at it from a sales culture perspective. From an organizational standpoint, how are you managing your culture? Culture is something that needs to be seen differently because you're managing a large force and a large force that is working from a home. This is the new reset that companies need to do to be ahead of the curve. What is the culture? What is the culture we have currently? What is the culture we need? Culture should be enabling strategy and more so sales strategy. Sitting in the house, I don't have my boss. I don't know how to talk to him. I don't know what the company is doing. Oh, salary cut dega. Mera job hai ki nahi hai. So therefore, people are petrified, worried, and are, I won't say directionless. So I think this aspect of culture needs to be redefined. And rather than say strategy I have and culture follows it, I am saying that culture needs to be redefined and strategy follows it. And therefore, you need to ask, why do we do what we do? What do we believe in? Where are we headed? What makes us special? How does what we make a difference in people's lives? In short, that's the conditions for people to thrive. And that is what sales guys like it. And in conclusion, I am very positive that we will limp back. There are people already saying that we will get back to last year's levels. Now, whether they say it, not say it, I strongly believe that life insurance is in the best position right now, and I feel all the channels can thrive. So this is my limited point as far as what I see as the future of sales in life insurance, being a sales guy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Murli. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Suresh. That is most, I think you retained 150 people approximately. The crowd is still in. Just now I'm saying an outstanding, I must thank and give a round of applause to all the speakers. Every one of you have brought passion into this conversation, which is what we were looking for. We're looking for an independent point of view, which is what you all of us gave. So I think we have a challenge in trying to make sense and then convert it into some document which you can share. Some of the speakers. I'm very, very delighted that we organized this event. And I think one positive note I want to end. Peter, if you have permission, is there anything else? Can I sign off?
You can wrap up, and we need to thank
Question answers. What we will do is that many people are staying here. What we will do is we'll send a feedback form to you, and you can fill up your questions, and we will try and get those answered as much as possible. I apologize, we didn't have time. But one positive note I want to say, so far, if you have a child at home, parents used to shout at the child, why are you spending so much time in Facebook? Why are you spending so much time in Instagram? Today we're going to say the reverse. Why are you not spending enough time in Facebook? Because today's digital selling is all about understanding digital media. So these kids until yesterday were a liability have become an asset. And that's going to be the change in the way I look at it as a closing statement, that the positivity, yes, is there. I think we are seeing a revival, and I am sure insurance industry, life insurance industry, with leadership people sitting here will reach new heights. And I want to thank again all of you, 136 people right now who are still in the listening to this conversation.